Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a January 22nd edition of the MSP Initiative MSP Talk podcast. It is a cold, or at least where I'm at in Philly Metro, coldish day with a snowstorm impending on the northeast. So they tell me, got my shovel ready and my salt. I guess we're just going to have to buckle down and see what happens over the weekend. But anyway, thanks for joining the podcast or listening to it or watching it or doing whatever you're doing. Hopefully, not driving and watching it, but maybe listening to it. Be safe out there. Couple of housekeeping items, and then we'll get into the good stuff. MSPinitiative.com. That's where you're going to find all the information about what we're up to. We're about to list a bunch of stuff. That we're working on, including block parties for this upcoming year. We have some that are right around the corner that we'll announce coming up here in Q1. The Channel Sports Tour. We had an awesome Channel Sports Tour result from the end of last year with a lot of those NFL games that we got MSPs together on. So we got some good stuff coming up this year. Stay tuned for that. Just generally excited on putting some in-person-ness to what we do. But it should be a pretty exciting year. Don't be upset when a lot of those sports events happen here in Pennsylvania because it's not, the schedulers of all the various people, have a lot of big things happening between the NFL draft in Pittsburgh and the MLB All-Star game in Philly, PGA Championship in Philly, FIFA World Cup games, some in Philly, and a bunch of other stuff. So we'll don't worry, we'll be going outside of Pennsylvania like we did last year. But just a reminder, a lot of things happening here in the Keystone State. But anyway, here we are, new person joining the show for the first time, Christina Klein. How you doing today?
I'm awesome. I feel like it's Pennsylvania's year to shine. Holy cow. How did you guys
Yeah.
land all of those amazing
I,
events
I
in a
don't know,
single
and they
year?
and they they're just now rolling out like some of the initial information about the like America 250, right? The 250th like birthday of the country. If people, remember their fourth grade history classes, the country kind of started in Philadelphia. So there's a lot of things that are going to be happening here, and you know, I wasn't around for the 150th, so we'll see what all this stuff entails. But they're saying that a lot of big stuff's happening, so we're gearing up for that. So yeah, Pennsylvania just it all kind of aligned into one pretty busy year. But unfortunately, my team's not going to be in the Super Bowl, not like last year. But the NFL draft coming to Pittsburgh. Was it for the first time after they left New York? It was in Radio City Music Hall forever and ever and ever. The first time they left, they were in Philadelphia at the Art Museum at the Rocky Steps. That was a while back. They've been moving all over the place, right? And so they finally made it to Pittsburgh on the other side of the state. And so hopefully it'll be a good time. But if you haven't been to an NFL draft, it is an event. I was here. I went to one up in New York. Went to the one here in Philly. It is a. They've made it into a thing, right?
I can
Instead of
only
just
imagine.
weekends.
I can only imagine what the energy is like in that room with all of those just remarkable athletes and their hopes and dreams hanging over the whole audience, as they wait to pull that number and they're just like, yeah, like it's got to be a
It,
huge day for the families, for the
100%, 100%. And it's
for
like
good
3
energy.
days of TV, ratings when nothing else is going on, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So
absolutely.
I'll give the NFL credit that they have turned their ratings into a 12-month a year gig.
Yes,
But I
they
guess that's
have.
why they make the big bucks.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Well, my Seattle Seahawks are still in the running, so we'll find out on Sunday whether or
There it
not.
is. That was one of the first questions, right? Like, hey, like where are you out of? Where you from? A little bit of background. I assume you're from Seattle area if you're a Seahawks fan.
Well, I live in Seattle. I was born and raised in the Bay Area, so everyone is always surprised that I'm not a Raiders fan because I grew up right next door to the stadium, um, uh, or a 49ers fan. But to be honest, I did not grow up watching football. My dad
Huh.
liked my dad liked NASCAR and soccer, and hockey, like all these sports that, a long time ago when I was a kid we're not that popular. Of course, now everybody's having this heyday, right? Seattle's now got a professional soccer team, which was in the World Cup this last year, and the our hockey team is pretty good. The Kraken, it's cracking on. It's turning into a really fun um, kind of revision of my own childhood, to be honest, to be in this city with all these fun sports teams. But
Wow.
um,
Yeah,
no,
I was well, being from the Bay Area, right? Like your Raiders moved,
yeah,
okay, or
yeah,
what should have been your Raiders moved to Las
yes.
Vegas. The baseball team's following, right?
Yeah,
So,
no,
you
it's so
know,
sad. It's so sad. I used to go to A's games. My mom used to actually work the concessions when I was little, and
wow.
we'd get to enter the stadium seventh inning and get to watch the end of the game and wait for her to get off. And so it was always like a little treat, you get the free leftover popcorn
Mm.
and the free end of the baseball game. But it was back in the Ricky Henderson era. So, you know, really fun time to be watching the A's and watching him get that, stolen base trophy picked up off the thing. And I actually had a classmate of mine that was a ball boy for the team when they won the World Series, and
Wow.
they gave him a ring as a ball boy. So
I mean, that is the customary thing I hear.
so cool. So cool.
I
Yeah.
mean, I'm sure, I hope he didn't sell it.
I doubt it. I
Yeah,
doubt
that. But speaking of concessions, before not trying to go too far off the rails, but my favorite thing at like the stadium is the unlimited refillable popcorn bucket.
best deal.
Although this is a varying thing. Not all popcorn is created equal, or popcorn buckets for that matter. And when I go to the Eagles games in Philly, it's like $8, which I think is pretty good value compared to like, what the other prices of things are.
Yeah.
But I love when you go to stadiums and it's like, oh, you get the popcorn bucket non-refillable, triple the price. And I'm like, what's going on here?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why?
No.
You guys got to figure this out.
Yeah. In Seattle, we have none of that goodness. Everything is quite expensive, let's just
Mhm.
say. It's right up there with San Francisco, New York pricing on everything. But we have a gorgeous stadium. I don't know if you've been
I have been to two games, Eagles at Seahawks, both
okay.
losses for me.
Oh.
So, but yes, I have been to the stadium and all its artificial sound engineering that they have figured out over there. I I tell people, and I don't think I'm too far off, that like within the next 20 years, I think every NFL stadium will be enclosed. What do you think?
Enclosed? Oh,
Mhm.
just I don't have an opinion on that. I think for us, in Seattle, our we have a retractable roof over our baseball stadium. But they didn't do that with the football stadium, and the football stadium is newer. So I don't
Mm.
know that we're going to be rebuilding it anytime soon to accommodate that. I think they enjoy the fact that it is the loudest place in the world. It is so
This
loud.
this is a disputed title.
Uh,
Everywhere I go, it's loud. I went to with Channel Sports Tour. We went to Kansas City this year. They claim to be the loudest.
yeah,
Went to Green Bay. Went to Buffalo. Went, like everybody claimed, and they got the decibel meter thing going. And I'm just like, okay, like who
yeah.
is it? I feel like it's like everybody claims this title for themselves.
And it really is just a pride, I think, in how much they love their teams.
No,
You
that's fair.
So,
That's fair.
let them have it. Let
Mhm.
everybody feel like theirs is the best, because it really just comes down to we got the best team. I love where I'm at. I love my city, and there's nothing wrong with that. I don't even think we need to have a competition around it.
Yeah, well, we'll save that for the internet.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're based out of, Greater Seattle area, home of
Yeah.
Microsoft, all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
How did you find your way professionally into technology? I mean, there's a lot of things to do. How did you land there?
So many things to do. So I've been a nerd my whole life. I actually learned to code in binary on a Commodore 64 when I was in
Mm.
elementary school. Um, I have always loved technology and invention and innovation, and I am relentlessly curious about all the things, like how things work. And if honestly, if I had had more interesting teachers for science when I was in school, I probably would be a scientist or an engineer. you
Hmm.
know. My son watches this YouTube guy, Mark Rover, who is actually one of the
Yeah.
right, who worked on the
Yeah.
Mars rover. This guy is a brilliant teacher of science. Like I geek out on his videos all the time. I'm like, dang, if my teacher taught me like that, I would be an engineer. Like I love this stuff. It's so interesting. But alas, I did not have that experience. And I, during college, worked for a corporate law firm that worked with startup companies. They were
Okay.
they were out of Menlo Park, so out of the valley down in the Bay Area. They also had an office up in Kirkland, Washington, which is beautiful little community right near where I went to college.
It's also the brand they use for all that Costco stuff. But anyway, keep going.
Which is because they're from there. Exactly. That's why it's named that. But I worked there when I was in college. And so I worked with a lot of startup companies that were our clients. And one of them hired me away to go, work with them on their .com back in the .com boom. And that's kind of how I got my start. And I went from working retail.com to going to Microsoft and working at Microsoft,
Mm.
doing brand communication stuff for them. And then when I left there, I went back as a consultant and I started
Oh.
working with all of their global ISV partners. And so I got into working with all the partner community and the channel and did that for a good 10 years with Microsoft, mostly around infrastructure. So everything, back in the day from all the servers and, high performance computing stuff. I mean, talking 15 years ago, the HPC stuff to the cloud, when they launched Azure and we're starting to do all of this stuff around that. So deep history in that infrastructure, but in partnering specifically. And
Hmm.
I had my own consulting business for about 12 years, and I was working with these different teams throughout Microsoft, as well as a bunch of other big tech companies in the area. There's lots to choose from here. But one of my clients ended up offering me a full-time job to be her chief revenue officer, and they primarily had a channel sales strategy. So I went in and I led that team for a year. We ended up getting bought by Microsoft within a year,
Hmm.
which,
Lucky you.
everybody thinks, yay, except, it all depends on how much the payout is, right? And I'm like, well, this is yay, but I still got to have a job. So I was recruited by a guy that I work with at Microsoft to join Lansweeper, which is where I've been for the last 6 years. And I was brought in to start up the channel here in North America. They've been a direct sales organization for their previous 15 years of existence. And I know from experience that the channel is where it's at. If you are a software company and you want to scale quickly, you want to be able to support your end customers with expertise that you can't afford to pay for as a singular company, you need to go through the channel and partner with the right people.
Hmm.
And that's what I've been building since I joined Lansweeper 6 years ago. The
Interesting.
last
What
two
a
years
journey.
yeah, it's been super fun. Very unpredictable, but I'm the kind of girl that walks through the doors that get opened. I don't really try to force my way. Uh, I don't like to bang my head, and I certainly don't sit around. I can see an opportunity when presented, and this was a great opportunity. I mean, they're a Belgian-based company. We only had 100 people when I joined, but had been around for a long time, had a good reputation, a really good product.
Hmm.
It's been super exciting to see the evolution of the company in the last 6 years. Our product is a completely different product than it was. Still discovery and inventory of technology assets. That is our primary purpose. However, how we do it, the kind of devices we discover, what we do with that data, what we make available on the platform for our partners to be able to leverage, to be able to build services and grow their business around has completely evolved into a different product altogether. And
All
it's
right.
super, super
Well,
fun.
let's go backwards for a second before we go forward. So, all right. So you worked at Microsoft for a long time, and you worked around Microsoft even after you left.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask some questions, and you could tell me, hey, I've been out of there, but you were there while the things were happening. So, always love to poke some topics that are on the minds of many that I roll into in MSP land, which is it feels like Microsoft still has no concept really of the smaller sub-industry sandbox that I like to call MSP. IT service provider, managed service provider. I know that used to be called VAR, and I know that used to be called all sorts of stuff, and it's everybody changes acronyms as time goes on. But generally speaking, and this is a disputed number. I would love to hear what your number is, but like some people think there's 95,000 of those guys. Some people think there's 400,000 of those guys worldwide. Like it's all over the place. But like the 95,000 is like North America. And then as you add the rest of the world, this is how you get to this 400,000, which I don't know if it's a real number or not. I would love to hear what you think.
I've never seen that number. The highest I've ever seen is 200,000.
Okay.
That's the TAM that I work with. But yeah, around 95,000 in North America is what I've
Is
seen
right.
as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's just roll with that.
Okay.
So why does it feel, why do people feel that Microsoft changes their program enough that it really doesn't incentivize the partner, the MSP IT services provider, to like feel like it's a partnership? It feels more like it's I'm dictating to you how it is. I'm the 800-pound gorilla in the room.
Mhm.
NCE, which was more recent last few years, changing the, action pack and the deliverables of the metal programs that since have gone away. It feels like every 12 to 16 to 18 months, like the price goes up by 20% for 365. Like it just never, it's like a constantly moving target that nobody, just like you brace for impact. Is all of that sound right, or are we seeing it the wrong way?
I think it sounds fair. Now, I have to clarify, I have not worked with Microsoft directly in 8 years.
Sure.
Right. So
But
it's
you were around at the
I
inception of these
Well,
programs.
I was, and I was around in Balmer time, and then I was also lucky enough to be there to see Nadella start to actually change the culture of the company, and thank God, because it is the culture there is significantly better than it was when I first started. But the reality is they're a business, they got shareholders, and they got to
Mhm.
deliver those dividends, right? Like every other company in the world. The thing that happens that I've seen over and over is it is a pendulum swing every year, right? We know every July there's gonna be rifts, and we know every 6 months later there's gonna be a new program, and then there's a new set of priorities. That team's gonna be disassembled, and then over here a new team is gonna pop up that somehow looks exactly like the team that they just got rid of over here. Like it's just whoever the leadership is at the time trying to flex their muscle, do what they need to do.
Okay.
It's just the way things go. Now, it doesn't mean that there aren't programs. It's just they look different. They're a different
Mhm.
flavor. I mean, at my last company, the reason we were acquired is we were a tool that Microsoft used to do work with their service providers on behalf of their end customers. So we worked with, 1,000 different services providers as a tool, a vendor, that Microsoft would buy licenses from and give to these service providers to go use and do work on their behalf. So there is still very much a need, and Microsoft will acknowledge 95% of its revenue comes through its partners. So it's not as if they don't care about the partners. It's just the programs are constantly changing and evolving, and they look different and they're called something different. And now there's a different team that's managing the program. I just met somebody. I was in Latin America doing a road show to visit some of our larger MSPs last week. And the wife of one of the guys that I met is actually a consultant. She was at Microsoft for 20 years, and she now consults with partners to
Hmm.
help them understand how to take advantage of all of the programs and get connected into all the programs Microsoft has to offer. She's built her own consulting practice around this because it is mind-boggling the amount of information that is available on that partner portal and in the partner network, and trying to navigate it and figure out what fits you and what's right and what's accessible to you, et cetera, is overwhelming. And every partner organization, whatever label you want to call it, VAR, MSP, VAD, SI, whatever, if you want to work with Microsoft, you need a dedicated Microsoft person who does nothing but research this, walk the floors, network with people, go to the shows, go to the events, try to figure out how to capitalize on it because Microsoft gives away loads of money to their partners to go do these different things on their behalf, right? Whether it's assessments or project work or audits, you name it, right? Microsoft pays its partners to do that stuff with freebies, with incentives, you name it, right? They don't give you the discounts anymore, right? You don't get margin on reselling their stuff because they have all these other incentive programs that actually can fund your business. So I think it's really important if you want to build a business around Microsoft, and there are thousands of partners that only work with Microsoft, right? It's possible to do that. It's possible to be successful, but you got to dedicate the time to figuring it out.
Yeah, first time I sat through a session and they were like, "Oh, here's how the incentive program works," but it takes like 66 hours to submit the documentation required in
Yeah.
order to get it. I was like, "Do I need a CPA in order to file this paperwork? Like, why is it more complicated than my tax return? I don't get it."
Oh, it is not a joke, right? They make it, you got to earn it. You earn your
Yeah,
money, let's just say. But there is money to be made. So it's all a matter of how important that is to your growth strategy, right?
that's
How
fair.
significant is that you have that badge of honor on your website? How important is it to the end customers you're trying to win that you have that affiliation? Because I think today Google has made inroads in the enterprise organizations with their product suite, right? Apple has made inroads in enterprise organizations with their product suite. It's not like it was 20 years ago where 95, or I think it was like 98% of enterprise organizations use Microsoft technology.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of options now, and it's wherever you want to focus and is where you need to put a resource, basically.
Yeah, I get
Yeah.
that. I mean, it's interesting. Everybody has all the social media feeds. It's all over the place. I was flipping through this morning and I noticed a thread from that an MSP out of Europe started saying, "Hey, with all this stuff going on and the price keeps on changing and the currency thing happening, like my customers are considering moving back to on-prem." And I was like, "Wow, how about that? Full circle." And I was like, "How about have we hit the glass ceiling where the math isn't mathing?" And I was just like, really interested after a decade of cloud, 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 get rid of the box in the closet. Like it's just not scalable. Now it's being entertained again. What do you think about that?
Well, because I spent before I joined Lansweeper, the previous 15 years of my career were focused in the cloud. We're all about Azure and AWS, and nobody really cared about GPC at that time, but it was, the big gorillas in the room. And in fact, that's what the last company that I worked for specialized in, was helping people right size themselves for a cloud migration. And that's how Microsoft used this tool to be able to compete and win customers to get them to migrate to the cloud. I saw it back then that there's this pendulum swing because the promises of the cloud were not delivering, right? The cost efficiency that people expected to see was not happening. Why? Because they weren't right sized for the cloud. Specifically, right? It took it took my previous company Mover 5 times of refactoring and re-architecting their entire product platform to get it right sized for the cloud, because there are all of these different factors, right? You look at, okay, server size, great, I need this, I need my CPU here, I need network here, but what about throughput and IOPS and all of these other things around how fast you're connecting, how much access you have, how much headspace you have in the cloud in order to continue to expand? Are you overpaying for the cloud? What is your licensing cost in the cloud? And how does that compete? And what can you take advantage of in terms of what you've invested in on-prem to leverage in the cloud? There's so many complexities again in getting that right sized. That's what that tool specialized in, right? It looked
Hmm.
at all of the various cloud instances. And I don't know if you've ever looked at a price list for AWS, but there's like a million different sizes and configurations. And then depending on what geo you're in and what data center you're connecting to, like they all have different costs and implications, right? So this tool basically took all of this information, took everything it could find on your actual on-prem infrastructure, what was actually used, did the application dependency mapping to tell you what was important, where the processes were, what you could dedupe and get rid of, and all the things, where you could find those efficiencies, where you could combine certain server racks into certain things in the cloud, right? And then gave you the headroom you need to be able to flex based on your business profile. And then it would give you recommendations. This is how much it would cost, and this is what you should buy if you go to Azure, and this is what it would cost and what you should buy if you go to AWS. And so it made it really easy for people to kind of figure that out
Hmm.
easy, right? With certain level of confidence that, okay, if I do this, this is going to work for me. But even then, there are certain things that you never want to put in the cloud. There are certain mission critical applications that should always be on-prem, controlled in your environment, backed up, right? You got to have your solid backup and recovery happening on those on that infrastructure. But there are certain things that are made for the cloud, right? Your production environments, your dev portal, when you want to spin something up so someone can play with something and build something, and you don't want to invest in that because you don't know if you're going to invest in whatever that end product is, throw that kind of stuff in the cloud, right? Give your team flexibility for that, but put parameters around it. And then decide, where does it make the most sense, right? Now that I have this in the cloud, who needs access to that?
Hmm.
Where do I need to make that accessible? So with our products, we scan millions and millions and millions and tens of millions of technology assets a month. We have over 20,000 customers that use us. We scan over 35 million Windows devices every month. Like, we have a lot of data sitting in our cloud. But in that cloud, it's anonymized, aggregated, structured, so we can apply machine learning and AI on top of that data and then feed that back into our customers to be able to give them insights, benchmarking information, whole bunch of good stuff, right? So for us, having the data in the cloud makes sense because we need to make it extensible and available through API pools and all these other things, right? So that our customers can benefit from this collective insight and knowledge that we provide.
Yeah, no,
If
I get it. I mean, it just seems like, kind of putting a bow on the conversation is, hey, I guess size and priority of what your company is and does changes the game.
Mhm.
One could definitely have a longer conversation about what does a successful channel program look like, and what is the modern day services provider care about when you're building these programs so that they pay attention, because there's a lot of noise. I mean, like, I, I remember doing a presentation back in 2017, and at that time I said, I believe, this was my personal research and opinion, I believe back in 2017 the average services provider had like 47, 48 vendors that they had to manage across all the things that they are bundling and delivering to their end customer. We're almost 10 years later. It's 2026. And so that number, as much as everybody's like, oh, I want less vendors, less vendors. Oh, no. I think that number is north of that by a long shot. So, like, that's a lot of things to pay attention to, programs to follow, vendors to see updates from. And generally speaking, it gets tuned out. Like, the noise meter just breaks and they're like, nope, don't have time. And unless I'm looking for something, I'm not really paying attention.
Yeah, I absolutely concur. I think the latest data I said the average MSP uses about 30 different vendors in their tech stack for specific service,
Mm-hmm.
singular service, right? So yeah, getting attention and someone to actually take advantage of whatever we have to offer is tricky.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's also important to understand what matters most. You
Yeah.
gotta
I mean,
do more with
everybody has a
less.
portal, but they're
Yeah.
not logging into your portal. So what's it for?
No, it doesn't matter, right? I feel like, at least the way we try to approach it is, we really try to be business partners with our MSPs. We sit down on a monthly basis and say, here's a new report that we just released, and here's what you can do with it, how you can make money with it. Here's how you sell this as an add-on to your customer. Here's how you expand your current customer base without adding any more tech to the stack, because you can see the data in our platform. Are you running this kind of a managed service? Because I know you bought us for this purpose, but did you know you could use this data in this way and go launch a new service or expand with your existing customers, right? And offer them something more. Let us show you how we can help you grow your business because we're the experts on our data. We know what it can do and how other people across the world are using it, right? I mean, I have MSPs literally in every corner of the world, from South Africa to South America to Australia, throughout India, all over Europe, North America. They're all a little different. From big guys like Kyndryl and Logicalis who are using us to little MSP, mom and pop shops that are very, very common.
Okay. Well,
Everybody's
let's
doing
so
something
so
different.
let's I mean, so we started off with, hey, what do you think the number is? You're like, oh, North America 95,000. I heard 400, you heard 200. Let's just, zoom into, all right, let's do the 95,000 North America. Of the 95,000 North America, the average MSP profile, like let's call it somewhere between 80 and 90%, wherever it lands, guesstimate here,
Yep,
sub 10 people,
yep,
right? Probably managing 30 to 60 end customers in some way, shape, or form,
yep.
probably doing less than $5 million of revenue annually per year. So if I take the majority, super majority, right? 80-ish%, how would they look at your solution and what does it do to help them at that size?
Yeah. So again, you can't do anything in your customer's environment without understanding what they have, right? So our product tells you what they have. And not just the things that they think they have or that they can give you access to. Our stuff can see the rogue devices, the shadow IT, all of the software that's tapping in that you can't find. Our product sees it, finds it, and tells you where it is. So super helpful and efficient, and it does it in less than a day, right? So if we're talking about a small customer environment, I mean, already a large customer environment, let's say 10,000 assets, we can scan and discover and give you a high level inventory in a day. The next day, you will get the depth of data on all of those assets, everything from serial number to when it was last patched, what operating system it's running on. If you scan Active Directory, who's assigned to that, who's accessing that information and that asset. And we do this not just for IT assets, but
Hmm.
IoT, operational technology, so all the stuff out on the manufacturing floor, to we've released a beta scanner for medical IoT. So anybody that's servicing hospitals or healthcare organizations can actually help track all of those very specific devices that the hospitals and doctors' offices are using. You can get all of this information in a single pane of glass on your customer, and you can get it very quickly and very inexpensively. And then once you got all the data, say you want to use an RMM tool, you use our open API. And if we don't already have an off the shelf integration into the RMM tool of your choice, you can build one, right? We've had MSPs build their own API connection into ServiceNow to populate their customer CMDB with 100% of our enriched asset data into that CMDB. And they built that with less than 3 weeks with the help of our team, giving them advice on how to do it, where to look for. Here's the data set, blah, blah, blah. We help feed that information. So we give you the foundational data that you need to do the what's next, right? So what is your next? You want to give them a once a quarter cybersecurity health check. Awesome. We have a risk insights report where we layer in the NIST data. We take our special algorithm to identify all of the assets in your customer's environment that are at risk for a cybersecurity attack because they're either not patched correctly or there's some vulnerability in there. We stack rank them and score them so you understand which of those risks actually present the greatest vulnerability for your customer. You can run that report anytime you want. It's included in our thing, but that's something you could go to your customer and say, hey, once a quarter, I'm going to, for an extra X amount of dollars, let me give you your cybersecurity posture. And then, oh, by the way, if you want me to fix those things for you, I can go do that, right? It's the same IT data that you're using to manage their desktops to be able to say, yep, you got the right thing. This operating system needs to be updated. This one you can't update anymore. So let me get you a new laptop for Bob back in the accounting office, right? Like you can use our data, our lifecycle management reports to do that. You can use our data to run software asset compliance. reporting and auditing. I mean, the number of use cases and services that can be built off of this foundational data set is extensive and unlimited, right? It just comes down to how creative you want to be, but it allows you to really start to add value in a way without adding more products to your tech stack, right? And what's more, it allows you to make your existing investments in those other vendors even more valuable because you're having a consistent foundational asset count in every single one of those tools by connecting with our API. Doesn't cost anything extra to do it, right? You can take all of this data so that this tool over here is telling you the same number of assets that this tool over here is telling you. So you can go back to your customer and confidently say you have 552 assets in your environment, and they see it across the board in all the different tools you're using and all the different services you're providing, and it's automatically updating, and everybody's getting everything better and faster and more value. So there's a lot of ways that you can leverage our product. And we have a lot of MSPs that only use us, especially those smaller guys. They really use us and can use our information to manage those smaller customers.
Yeah, I was going through your integration list and I was like, all right, well, MSPs, right? They're all drinking that integration Kool-Aid, and I see Halo and
Yep.
I see ConnectWise and I see Acronis.
Yeah.
They're all MSP-ish brands out there.
Yeah.
I see Devicey, right? We've talked to Devicey on this very podcast. They're really trying to get in, push more into MSP land.
Yeah.
So like it seems like, but then you got a lot of internal IT brands like Jira, which is, I wouldn't say, huge MSP brand, but for internal IT for sure.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think it's interesting, right? Because generally, I would think like ServiceNow, I would say very like at the very top of the MSP chart, maybe you see some ServiceNow people, but generally might be too big for most.
Yeah.
Um, it's interesting because this whole topic is kind of like a drive-by conversation when people were marketing and buying their RMM suite, right? They're like, oh yeah, you can install this probe on some machine in the network. It's gonna go, do its thing. It's gonna try and install our agent from the RMM and yada yada yada. And that's the last you heard of it because like not a lot of attention past the initial deployment of an agent, right? When it comes to the conversation of like asset discovery that we're having right now. You have built an entire company in an area that is probably 2 minutes of conversation on the other side, right?
Yeah.
So like it's definitely not apples to apples by any means in terms of, well, the functionality of the RMM is X. So why do I need this, right? If I was an MSP, that might be the question that is the first thing that comes to mind. You're like, yeah, like sure, your RMM can go do some of this stuff, but like at a very basic like surface level, it seems like your platform has gone a mile deep here in this conversation.
It has, and a mile wide. So you mentioned, right, you put these agents on the thing and it'll manage it for you. Great. What about all the things you don't have agents on? Right? We have
There's a lot.
agentless, we have credential-free and agentless device recognition, right? You don't even need to have access to your customer's environment at a high level to understand what's in it. So we
Hmm.
bought this company called Fing, Fing, consumer products out of Italy, 5 years ago. And they brought us credential-free device recognition. If you have a Netgear router in your environment, it has Fing on it. It is how Netgear can tell you which devices it's seeing connected to your router.
Hmm.
And that is without any credentials. So you can download the free app on your phone. It's a consumer app from Fing. And anytime you go to an Airbnb, connect to the Wi-Fi and see if they have any hidden security cameras in that Airbnb. What
Hmm.
are those Bluetooth speakers? Where's the whatever, right? You can see everything that is connected to that network. So people use it in a consumer environment, but it's also how we are able to tell you without you telling us or without even necessarily having access what's in your customer's environment and start to collect that inventory. And then our
Wow.
Our agentless scanner will get you 98% of the data that we need. And if you need an extra two, the only reason you would put an agent on a device in our platform is if that device continues to go on and offline. So think about a school district during COVID when everybody's sending laptops home with the kids, right? You want to make sure you don't lose track of where those laptops are and who's got them and whatever. You put an agent on that device so that when it comes online, anytime it connects to a public Wi-Fi, doesn't have to be the school network, any public Wi-Fi, it'll ping back to the mothership where it is, that it's still active, and you can still collect all of the information and data on that device. So
Yeah, I mean the asset. I mean, here's the reality, right? The printers and the switches and the cameras and the there's so many devices, right? Like
many.
they don't take an agent, and like quite frankly, most MSPs can't properly monetize those devices because they can't easily track them or monitor them, right? Like maybe they can get it in an initial hit, but then after that, there's no management of those things. It kind of have to like create this McDonald's style packaging where they're like, oh, well, all of that stuff we'll just handle as it comes up, right? And we'll just create this one big flat fee because there's no way for them with their current stacked, software management tools to really deal with those things, right?
Right.
I mean, so that's I think how a lot of people deal with it. They don't even care about the non-Windows, non-Apple computing device, right? Could be server,
Yeah.
could be workstation, laptop, tablet, and let's even go down the road of mobile device, operating systems, right? iOS, Android. Psh, RMM does historically a really bad job at managing those devices.
Yeah. And then you think about how creative hackers are these days. Right? I love going to RSA just to hear the crazy stories about how people are getting hacked, right? Everybody heard about the thermometer dropped into the fish tank in the casino 5 years
I heard
ago.
about
And
that.
then 2 years ago it was somebody hacked a manufacturing company through the computer that controls the solar panels out in the parking lot. Right?
Hmm.
And you don't even think about, oh, I probably should secure that. I should secure that kind of device. But if you're in cybersecurity and your name is on the line for any kind of a hack or a breach, you got to make sure you know where every one of those devices, that I call it, has a brain, right? Anything with an IP address that's pinging has an ability to break in. And so if
Yeah.
you don't know about it, you're at risk for opening up your customer's environment to an attack. And the truth is they are going downstream, right? Everybody thinks it's only the big guys that are going to get attacked, but the recent data shows that the small to mid-market uh, enterprise or organizations are the ones that are being targeted now because they're the least sophisticated when it comes to how they're managing those environments, but they're also the greatest risk.
Yeah, I was so I had an MSP for a very long time before, got into other things. And I remember we were working with a municipality. The municipality has their own gas pump, right? And like there's like a Windows 98 machine running this gas pump. And I'm like, what is going on here? And it was like, well, that's what it runs. And it's like, yeah, but like Windows 98 is like end of life 8 times over. What's going on? They're like, we'd have to replace the whole gas pump. It'd be 6 figures. So we just kept it around. And I was like, okay, this
Yeah.
is not good. You got to disconnect this thing from the network. It's like, but we need access to it so we can see which you know person is putting how much gas into their vehicle in the municipality. And I was like, guys, like this is just it's like a open electrical wire hanging out of the wall, just waiting for somebody to get put their hand on it. It's not good. But this is the kind of stuff that comes up all the time.
All the time. And you would never know it, right? You would never find it if you had to rely on your customer telling you to put an agent on these devices. We actually have an MSP that is it's a newer MSP. They just started, but their area of expertise is in securing the batteries and the infrastructure for sustainable energy infrastructure. So
Hmm.
solar, the wind farms, right? The actual windmills themselves, the EV charging stations at the gas station, the battery systems that are feeding into that are connecting back into the power grid, right? The local municipalities' power grid, they are providing the cybersecurity around
Hmm.
those OT devices. And they're going to use our product to as kind of a fail-safe to make sure that nothing is trying to infiltrate those environments that they're not aware of. They have different cybersecurity solutions to actually provide the barrier, right? The security around them, but they're using us to make sure nothing is trying to break in that they don't know about already. And so there's so many different ways that people are being creative. I'd love to know another, you talk to people all the time. What are some of the other things that you're seeing or creative ways or that people are breaking in or the kind of devices people are still using that they're not thinking about anymore, that they've kind of forgotten about, that are in a closet somewhere that
I mean,
helps those vulnerabilities.
I think generally speaking, a lot of the messaging that I've heard, even recently still, is like, hey, the low hanging fruit stuff, it's the easy stuff. It's like, you hear AI in every other conversation now. It's like, hey, the bad guys use AI too, right? And if they can speed up looking for the easy target, like yes, these tools can be used for good things, but they can also be used for bad things. So like if you're not doing basic hygiene, right? Like, did you turn the MFA on? Like, did you shut the old employee's account off after they left? Did you're making sure everything is on a current version, and you don't have stuff out there that's on an old release that had a known thing, but you never caught up to it before somebody took advantage of it, right? And so a lot of this stuff is the stuff that I heard back in 2005, 2010, 2015. It's just changed because the speed in which people are attacking these low hanging fruit things is just faster.
Yeah,
And then by the time you realize that there's a problem, like, it's ages in the current day, right? Where before it was, hey, you got to it fast enough, it's not a concern. Now it's no, like, it is a concern now. And what do you have to do
yeah,
to remediate it? So that's
yeah,
still a lot of it's not the, hey, somebody, like out of a movie, right? Like, figured out some really crazy back door into your thing. It's more, hey, you left the front door open and the windows, not latched, and like nobody did basic things.
yeah. Or you forget about that employee that got fired and
Mm-hmm.
is angry and sticks
Mm-hmm.
a computer, hides a computer somewhere in a back office that no one's going to look at and is literally taking all of your data right out of the back door. That happens also more often than you'd realize. And it's kind of crazy. And if you don't have a way to find it all and see it all, that's just continuously doing it for you, right? The remote monitoring is great for the things you know about, but it's really the things you don't know about that are the challenge. And again, we just want to be the one that finds it all, right? We'll let other people be the experts at monitoring it or securing it. Um, but we want to be the one to tell you, "Oh, ding, 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 over here. Did you know about this guy?" Because I feel like that's the vulnerability. And while it is, to me, it is the single most important piece of that
Interesting.
entire story.
So how does the program work from an MSP's perspective, right? Like, we talked about, hey, this sounds interesting. It's more than just, a discovery tool. It's a super discovery tool with a little bit of vulnerability, monitoring, and a little bit of shadow IT discovery, and a little bit of I was just flipping through some of the content here. Like, it looks like you could actually trigger orchestration things, right? Like, once your platform discovers something, it can go and trigger things, kind of like an RMM, but in complementary way, it kind of reads. So like, how does an MSP engage? How does the program work in terms of them, whether it's adopting it for themselves, which I assume is step one, and then how they then can turn around and deploy it to could be a prospective customer, could be an existing customer.
Yeah, so super simple. You just go to our website and click on the partner page in MSP and submit the form. And one of my awesome guys on my team will call you. It's that simple. And it'll show you around. There's a great demo that Thomas, who's our technical success manager, he's been on with the company 6, 7 years now. Thomas did this great demo of what it does and specifically what we do for MSPs, what that environment looks like. We have a we call it a multi-site management portal that sits on top of the discovery platform. And this allows you to isolate your customers' environments, think of multi-tenancy, if you will, right? Keep all of those data sets isolated, but for you to have a single dashboard to be able to see everybody all at once, apply reports, templated across all of those environments, be able to manage your billing, all those kind of things at aggregated level in that portal. So he kind of walks you through what that looks like. It shows you what our product does, just general discovery and what you can do with it. So that demo on our site is great to give you a good overview, but we make things really easy. If you like what you see, we have, I think our MSP agreement is 2 pages long. And it basically is just like, here's the terms, right? You use it, you're liable for it. You don't need it anymore. Make sure you take it out of your customer. Good to go, right? It's pretty straightforward. We have really flexible licensing options. So depending on how you invoice your customer and how much if you sell to them, resell subscriptions to them, or you want to use it for yourself and manage across the board, we have a lot of different flexible options. We even have options for people that just go in and do audits, right? Or you're on the pre-sales side of things. You just want to use us for pre-sales to make sure you're accurately scoping your customer environment. We have a really affordable license that allows you to do just that. So lots of flexibility. We try to make things as user-friendly and also compliant with whatever business model makes the most sense for your business. We don't want to force you into what we want. We want to make sure that we have something that meets your needs. So talk to us about that, because those options are not on our website because they're not available to end customers. They are specific to MSPs.
There
So
it is.
yeah, you do need to talk to us about that special pricing, and we'll talk you through it all. 30 minutes is all you need to learn about us. It's pretty straightforward. We do device discovery and inventory. There's no rocket science behind it. It's pretty cool, works great, super fast and easy to employ, and it's incredibly cost effective.
So the
So
company is based in Belgium. How does it work for the people on this side? Are
yeah,
all the people on your team, support, Robert, all those guys, are they
yeah.
here or how does it work?
Yeah, so our corporate headquarters is in beautiful Ghent, outside of Ghent, Belgium. We have an Austin office, which is our US headquarters. We're literally half the team. We kind of have the same size team in Belgium now as we do in Austin. Our
Hmm.
development teams are in Spain and Italy and Belgium. We've got product people, sales teams, and in Canada, South America, Australia, all over the US. In fact, most of my team is remote. So I only have 2 people in Austin and 2 people in Belgium, and the rest of them are around the world. And so we cover literally every time zone. I have technical success guys who speak English, French, Spanish, and Portuguese fluently, natively. We are really at any given time throughout the day, there is somebody in the company accessible. But for our MSPs, we have dedicated technical success managers that not only help you get onboarded, they'll sit with you and literally walk you through how to do it, how to set it up, make sure you have success with that first customer, make sure your team knows what they're doing, that they know how to access things, and most importantly, know how to troubleshoot things. We have an amazing community portal where people really contribute and share knowledge, but our knowledge base is really extensive and very well written, even for someone who hasn't coded since I was 9 years old. I find the advice articles to be very easy to understand, but yeah, we try to make it as easy as possible to get up and running and have success. And then once you're onboarded, then we start to work with you to figure out how to help you grow your business, right? Let's get you onboarded for this service that's your area of expertise. And then in a couple of months, we're going to come back and say, great, that's all going great. Everybody's happy. Awesome. Did you know you can use our data now to go do this? And let me show you how to find it, the report you can use, how to build it. Let me share some best practices from other MSPs over here. and help you continue to grow your business. And we do co-marketing stuff, and we help our MSPs with, joint webinars and campaigns, and we do co-funding at events. And, it's a wide range of things that we can
But
do.
but all of that doesn't need 66 hours and a CPA, right?
No,
Oh.
no. In fact, there are no forms to fill out. We literally just talk to a real person, your account manager, um, who sits there and brainstorms ideas with you. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? We can do this. Are you going to this event? So are we. Let's do this. Let's bring in some customers. We're going to go back and going back to Latin America in March to do two customer executive dinners, um, just to be able to meet the customers, because relationships are important. They also need to trust the vendors that their MSPs are putting in place. We are super happy to get out and help you grow your business and help you land those customers, shorten your sales cycles. And at the end of the day, we just want you to win, because if you win, we're going to win too. So
Last question on the way out the door. How many MSPs, again, I know that could be a wide term these days, but how many people in the MSP program or unique companies in the MSP program?
with us currently,
Hmm.
we have been recruiting for 2 years, and we've got about 500 that use us in their managed services around the world.
That's a healthy number. That's not
Yeah,
bad. That's actually pretty good for 2 years.
yeah, and like I said, we've got some big guys like Kyndryl that are looking to integrate us into their internal managed services system. So they're going to just put us right into their management platform. Team Viewer has embedded us. So, we were talking about help desk tools, service management tools. They've actually embedded our discovery into their platform. So if you use Team Viewer with any of your customer environments, that's our technology under the hood there, that's finding enriching all of that data, that asset data for them. So we're kind of some places you don't think about. We're already there. You might already be using us without knowing it, but we certainly would love to know our more MSPs. So I encourage your audience to reach out if anything I said was interesting, because we'd love to see if we can help you grow your business.
That's awesome. Lansweeper.com. I've heard of Lansweeper before. I'd be surprised if you've been around, you haven't heard the name, but you may probably haven't looked recently. So definitely check it out, lansweeper.com. Just a reminder, she kind of put that there, but under partners, there's a dedicated MSP landing page.
Yeah.
So that's where you can go and kind of get into talk to someone about that program. It seems like they have, if you're paying attention, specific things around the program that aren't customer and customer facing, which are it's kind of part of the puzzle here, right? So are they going to run into I know it's still January. Any events coming up that in the MSP space that they'll find you at?
Yeah, we're going to be definitely at a lot of the CRN events that
Yeah.
they're doing, the exchange events that they're doing around the world. We were just at the ConnectWise event in November. We'll probably be at a lot of the MSP summits, some of the bigger events throughout North America. We also work a lot with communities. So a lot of the mastermind groups that we sponsor and try to show up just to get it a smaller environment so we can have more real conversations, right? Because the booth is not always conducive to having an interesting one-on-one. So we try to get out into the community and do a lot of those community meetups and mastermind groups and that kind of stuff as well.
Awesome. Well, Christina, I'm glad that we got your microphone working and the speakers and got all that going. Thanks for jumping in here. Lansweeper is a name that I'll be honest with you. I mean, other than general awareness that the company exists, I haven't found it much in the MSP land, but if the last 2 years is where you really dug deep, that answers a lot of that. But
Yeah.
I think it's, if you don't know what's out there, you have no idea what tool could be in the toolbox. And it sounds like it's a underserviced part of the conversation, which, if you don't understand, that this can, what it can do, then how do you know whether it's going to work for you or not? So go check it out. Hopefully I will run into you somewhere, maybe in Seattle or somewhere else.
Or maybe one of
Uh,
those channel sports events. Those sound like a lot of
they're,
fun.
they're so fun. We did Green Bay, Tampa Bay, Dallas, Kansas City and Los Angeles last year.
Super
All
fun.
NFL games. actually, the biggest of which was Los Angeles. We had 74 unique MSPs represented at that one. That was pretty cool.
Nice.
Um, don't see a lot of MSP events at major sporting events. Like it happens haphazardly, or maybe for like the super big elite guys. But we kind of opened it up a little bit to the community. It was great, and now we're gonna try and see if we can build on top of that.
Sounds great. Well, let us know if we can help because it
Absolutely.
sounds like not only a lot of fun, but good business.
100%. Nothing like checking out, if you can't, buy into the NFL style experience, then I think you're missing out.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, this session was recorded. You'll find it on mspinitiative.com under sessions. It'll be on YouTube and the podcatchers and all the formats that you would like. Make sure to like, download, subscribe. Maybe you want to, look up more information at Lansweeper. So check out lansweeper.com or look up Christina Klein, because that's who jumped on the call today. So I'm sure if you message her somewhere on some platform, she won't ignore you. But thanks for tuning into this episode. We'll catch you on the next one. Bye, Christina.
Bye, George. Thanks.